All righty, let's dive into this week's Q&A, discussing some of the best exercises for a full body workout and how to get more out of yourself, and other juicy questions sent in to us for all Vitruvian Health clients and staff. So welcome, Carl here, Tammy in the background. There's a chair blocking it, so sneaky. We've got a new desktop, new setup in the office, so really excited for us to dive into. So if you don't like the audio, let me know. So we're making changes and improvements week to week, which I love. Hello, person that's just jumped on. And Fujita muscle chart, which obviously shows us muscles. So when we talk to people, we can educate them. Now we don't go full in depth. That's why we have doctors and people to work with on that, and physios and EPs. So disclaimer, which is what we always do at the beginning, is that all the information is for educational purposes and to help people, not to diagnose. If you want to get diagnosis, then probably go see a doctor. If you're looking for oral, Michael Kai's your guy. You're looking for medical, Janet Lee. Then you've got chiropractics, Dr. Mason, then acupuncturist, Chinese meridians, if you're interested in that, yoga, be Brendan Smith, and we're looking at 2 fertility doctors to align with in the future. So got a good bunch of people to work with that you can always reach out to. So disclaimer, done and dusted. It's all for education and my opinion. So you can definitely ask me that and we'll go from there. All right, so let's dive into the questions. Thank you everyone for reaching out. And if you ever have questions, reach out, plenty of them. So the way this Q&A works is people will jump on, they'll ask questions, I'll say hello. If you're watching a replay, then let us know, and you can always still post those questions. You can always reach out to me as well on info@vitruvianhealth.com.au, and we can rock and roll. So the questions that we have today is, number 1, thoughts on cooling of palms between sets. As in research, it showed that it improved performance. I've never done this. I just take a rest, and when I'm ready to go, I go. I also use chalk so that you've got pores in your palms, so they'll sweat. So you'll naturally slip. But you'll also find that your palms are slipping or losing grip because your forearms are actually lacking strength and they're fatiguing. So taking a break to allow your palms to cool down does allow the forearms to rest. But if you're cooling them down, it decreases the pores sweating, which means less slip, less slide. So definitely go for it. This is why people will use gloves. I just recommend get stronger forearms, and that will fix that one. The other things you can do is using chalk, because it'll kind of block those pores. So 3 things to do when you're losing your grip: cool the hands down, take a longer break, use chalk, or use a towel to wipe them down. Number 2, microbiome. Fiber effects. So I think it's talking about fibromyalgia. It's the effect of fiber on the gut to help with muscle growth. Well, Kathy, there's a lady called Kathy who talks about the microbiome, and we've had presentations with her. It's really exciting. She's also doing an internal training for the team on nutrition, which is awesome. So she talks about the microbiome, and there are 3 types of bacteria in your gut, one that feeds off sugars, fibers, and anything. So a lot of the time when people cut sugars and fibers out of their diet, natural sugars, then you've got that bacteria that only feeds on everything. So that's where people get bloat, distended, because there's an imbalance on the microbiome. So and she'll talk about how it's your second brain, because it produces serotonin, dopamine, all the hormones that help cognitive function. They all fire off. So if you're feeling tired and lethargic, your ability to train in the gym becomes impaired. So therefore you won't push as hard. Therefore you won't be actually stimulating all these lovely signals to grow muscle. So that is a challenge in itself, right? So if you improve the microbiome and your gut health, you're naturally going to improve your ability cognitively to train harder, push harder, recover more, which will help with building muscle. So definitely recommending good balance of fiber. Usually we recommend about between 25 to 40 grams of fiber per people. So eat your vegetables, potatoes, yams, pumpkins, rice, are all good foods that have a bit of fiber and give some roughage to the gut. So all of the microbiomes, all those lovely bacteria are feeding off naturally, and there's a balancing community. If you're someone who's had antibiotics, you probably, for every day of antibiotics, there's like a month month of repair, or is it a week? For like, yeah, every course of biotics you do kills your gut flora for like 3 months. Which technically, if it's a 7-day period, so 7 days, 3 months. So it does take a while to recultivate the gut, because a lot of the time when you take it, you feel better, and then you start eating all the foods that you used to eat, and then one bacteria that feeds off everything will feed off more of the sugars, and then it just creates an imbalance because it will just feed and grow. So that's a really interesting one. Next question: copper effect on the body, and would you consider it to be aware that the client would have enough? I get blood work done. It's the easiest one to do it. Get bloods done. It'll tell you right away. I tend not to take that guess. Copper, because it's a fine line. You have a copper and zinc imbalance. You actually have a learning. I used to work with a kid who had a zinc copper imbalance, which led to him having a learning disability, but like that's genetic predisposition. So he was naturally going to have that. So he could supplement it, but his body naturally just could only store so much. I tend not to play doctor on that one, but we have doctors that we refer with. How would you prepare an athlete who wants to compete in multiple shows? Number one, correctly and properly. 2, strategically over time. So you work out when's the end date. So if the end date was 1st of April 2024, we have 52 weeks. We plan it out. We probably do a strength phase for the first 16 to 12 weeks. Improve their structural balance, get them nice and strong. The more weight they can lift, the more they can push that body and the muscle to grow. And then we really, at the same time you build muscle here, we have different priority phases. And then we'd have a specific hypertrophy phase. We increase their calories, they eat more, bring them up. We'd have reset periods. So they might eat 20-30% calories for about a month, bring them down for a week, reset, bring them into a deep deficit for about 20-30%. This is a big gap. Reset insulin sensitivity. So they're just able to utilize carbs better. Boom, bring it back up. Another way you can do it is just gradually bring them up, gradually bring them down. So you're managing fat gain to maximize fat, muscle growth. And then, tightening it up from show to show. If you've I've done this with Kathy for a while. She does more photo shoots, but we keep the body composition in good nick all year round. So we're only constantly just making those improvements over time. If you have a big gap between the shows, so leading with that 1 year example, building mass, we'd have instead of most people do a 12-week cut, we'd probably go for a 20 to 24-week cut, because we bring calories down, reset the baseline. So we're not looking to drop the metabolism. We actually want to keep them up as much as we can. Burn fat, bring it back up, sustain muscle mass, fluctuate. Broderic Dubois, big shout out to him. He's been a big inspiration for what I do. So he does a lot of this as well, but you do push bodies quite hard. So the more time you have, you don't have to push them as hard. So you can obviously titrate slowly. That's how I would do it. And keep that body reasonably in good nick, so you can work from show to show, and you talk to the judges, where can we make improvements? And they might say she needs a bit more delt. Cool. In the program, if we're doing 20 sets on delts, we might do 25 sets, or just focus a little more volume or variation through that to bring that back up. Muscle testing, or ART, so active release technique, is a great tool, because they might have some restriction in the muscle. So the muscle is just tighter and compensating. You actually get in there as a manual therapist to release the tension in the muscle. It's a bit more freer, now moving more. We actually create more awareness of it. And triogenics, palpitation effects. So with those athletes, I would just be like, get them in the gym. Why aren't those muscles firing? Is it muscle activation? Test that. If it's restriction, free it up, open it up, train it, strengthen that new range, and then constantly moving it forward from there. Sometimes it's not just about volume, but we can do volume, manual therapy, muscle testing, and move forward from there from week to week from the shows, and making sure we're just on top of that. Progress photos will also provide a lot of feedback for you as well. Possible issues of digestion closer towards comp, going to happen with stressing, pushing the body harder, so stressing out. But obviously, if we've got the minerals and vitamins in place for that person, we've checked their blood work to make sure there's no underlying problems, then you probably won't see digestive issues, because they won't need to be deviating and eating off plan and eating those foods that set their gut off. You'll also find you're working on foods that don't trigger that. If you don't have structure and tools in place, people eat flexibly. They might eat foods that don't agree with them. If they're lactose intolerant, have a bit of dairy, they're going to be gone. So obviously, with time, you can find out what are the foods that work for that person, and then just be like, hey, these are the foods we look to avoid most of the time, so we don't set that off. And also just at the end of their shows, having refeed periods to align with that. Writing prepping clients, what's the difference on how you prepare them versus Broderic's in terms of programming? So Brod's Evil Genius, big shout out to that man. He's another inspiration with Ron Dubois. I am not him, he is not I. He works with a lot more athletes. This is his bread and butter. So both program differently. I like to say Ron Dubois is probably inspired by him and his methods, and therefore has inspired me and some of my methodologies. So I haven't worked with him, so I can't speak closer to his program design. I'd like to think that we're both results focused, so we're focusing on the person's goal. Because of his experience, he has more than me. He would definitely push his people a little bit harder because he's seen it time and time again. But for me, I like to work on more the structural balance of people and get people really strong. He would do the same. So I haven't seen it, can't talk to that too much. A lot of respect for the guy, but I would say similarities would be it's focused on getting the client the results so they can be the best they can be on the day of the event, show, photograph, photo shoot, or stage. But he would definitely trump me because he has many more years experience of doing it. But go for it. If you're someone looking at this and you're like, I want to do comp prep, project's great, but I'd like a trainer who has less experience. Cool. Let's do this together, and we'll put in the time and the energy to help work with you. Yeah. How can I improve my cardiovascular fitness? Best way to improve cardiovascular fitness is by really setting a plan. So we have a 10-week plan for improving cardiovascular fitness for people, where week 1 or week 0 is where you just assess where you're at. So run 200 meters, 400, 800, and 1 kilometer, time it, and see what times you get. And then do it twice just to make sure it wasn't a fluke. And from there, you literally could titrate week to week. So week 1, we then start more longer distance. So we start with like 2 1-kilometer runs. That'll get the heart rate up. And then we do an endurance day. So 40 minutes, just go for a steady run, managing your heart rate around 140 beats per minute. So it's not too hard, not too easy. So enough to cause that cardiovascular effect. And then you've got an intense day where you're doing intensive work. Week 2, bring the distance down, do a few more. So now do 3 sets of 100. Still an endurance day. Week 3, 600 meters 4 times. And we start to build you up. So you're still doing sort of the same volume. What's happening is you're starting to get work on getting faster and faster and faster. Till near the end of it, you're doing about 10 sets of 200 meter sprints. And that's just to build your speed and ability to go faster and build that up. If you're someone who's had an injury and you're looking to improve your cardiovascular health, I would be combining like structural balance work, where I would backload, instead of in a program, we would normally focus on compounds and accessories. Put your accessories first, so the calf work, tib work, strengthening the ankles, the knees, the hips. Then do your big compound work, or then you go for a run. So I would do a combination of training and cardiovascular work. So it's a way to prime and prep your body and to help you perform at those higher levels. And then retest it 10 weeks just to see how you're going, or you test it 5, but I do 10, make sure you've got a good spectrum of time to compare so you will see that progress. And yes, helpful. What are some good exercises for full body workouts? Best exercises are big compound movements. The bigger the better, because obviously more muscles are going to be working. Those exercises at Vitruvian Health, what we do is we will assess people, forward fold, back bend, see if you can hinge, can you extend your spine. So if you're someone who goes to back bend and you go head back, you don't have an ability to pull yourself up and back. Because if you're rounded, you're not going to get your arm overhead. So pressing, you're going to load to the shoulder. If you can extend, keeping your midline in and get that arm over your head, you then have an ability to press overhead. So that's going to work your back, your shoulders, your abs, your glutes, that whole body. So for full body, you can, what we do, we start with straight sets. So 1 exercise at a time. Build your confidence when you're moving through these movements. So you might start with rack pulls. You can't hinge properly, so rack pulls. So modify the range to suit. Then do a pressing movement. So you could do shoulder press, you could do bench press, shoulder press, bench press. You do say 8 reps, 8 reps. Then you go into a lower body exercise, lunges. Then you go into a seated row, because when you're lunging, your arms are resting, recovering. Then into rows. So in our gym, we go rack pulls, shoulder press, because it's on this side of the gym. We're walking lunges over to the row machine, do the seated row. Then you do bodyweight push-ups. Again, it's all working for more full body. Then go into the lying hamstring curl, because now we're starting to go more medial work, accessories. And then you could do some calf work or some arm work. So you get everything worked through the full body. If you go, I don't want to work my arms, I want to work more glutes, cool, then do hip extensions and do some ab work. So big compound to get that whole body going. We do upper lower split, because if you work your upper, then your lower, upper, then your lower. What happens is your heart has to pump blood up and down through the whole body, so you get more metabolic stress. You're also allowing certain muscles to recover. So when you go to that next one, you don't actually need 3-4 minutes. You're actually getting that time of recovery in between. So, when you're working your legs, your upper body's recovering. And then when you're working that upper body, that lower body's recovering. So big compound tends to get a good variation for all of it. So if you start straight sets, so you can practice each one, get really good at it, then do supersets, so 2 at a time, then do maybe a drop set, so challenge it a little more stimulus. So that'll get a few more sets out of you, give you that cardiovascular response, it'll aid a little bit more, help with your metabolism. You increase that, it increases your energy output, which may create a bigger deficit, so you burn more fat. Doesn't lead to better fat loss, it just means you increase metabolism, so you have a greater deficit. Nutrition is definitely going to cater to that one. There's Tammy again. And then the fourth one is a circuit where you combine it all together. You're literally going back to back to back to back to back to back to back. And then you rest 3 minutes and then go again. So in summary, a great full body workout starts with compounds first, slowly titrates down, alternates between upper and lower variations. Start straight sets, then you go supersets, drop sets, circuits. You could practice, say, 2-3 weeks, boom, boom, boom. Hold the data, and the goal is to make sure that your strength is still doing this. So if you're doing drop sets or circuits and you see a strength drop, that method doesn't suit you. Enjoy. That one. How long should I rest between sets during weightlifting? As long as you like. If your goal is to build strength, you should be resting 3-5 minutes, because you want to maintain technique and form. Your goal is functional hypertrophy, balance between strength and muscle growth, about 1 to 2 minutes, up to 3, sorry. And then for hypertrophy or more cardiovascular effect, 75 or less. From a point for improving flexibility as well, we utilize a superset method where we use upper, lower, or anterior, posterior. So there's a bit of an upregulation in metabolic effect and strength. Because sometimes if you fatigue like your back, your chest may upregulate to compensate for that in a short spectrum of time, which is 60 seconds, which is pretty cool. What are some good exercises for strengthening my core? This is a great question. How to strengthen your core? Top 3 exercises would be low cable reverse squat, gar hammers on a bench or on a bar, and exercise ball hovers, because everyone can punch the ball and that creates a bit of fun. If you don't have fun, it's not going to be enjoyable. A bonus exercise would be the Copenhagen side plank, because it works your adductors, groin, and your abs, which I really do enjoy that one. And the last one, fun, 5, is the board, grab a friend, balance one leg on a BOSU ball, throw a ball at each other, to challenge that stability as well, because your core is not just designed to look good, it's designed to stabilize you and hold you in space. Yep. What are some tips and tricks for sticking to a fitness routine? Have a strong one, hire a coach that you enjoy. 3, create a routine that actually works for you. Last week we had a gentleman who doesn't really want to join the gym, so I'm not going to force him to join the gym, even though I personally believe it's going to help him, but didn't align with his values. So finding out what are your values and really align with that. Some people, they need gymnastics, some people need calisthenics, comp prep, some people want a coach to shout at them, some people want someone to talk to them and guide them every step of the way. It's finding the routine that really works for you, but also just understanding that I say this so often, when it comes to building a routine, we think, oh, my friend's doing this, I must do that. But if you train, they train 6 times a week, 2 hours a day, and you're just starting, Start with 2 or 3 times a week, a day. Start with 30 minutes to 60 minutes. Build yourself. And you'll start to find, if you're a career-focused professional and you only have the availability for 3 times a week, 1 hour, well, you can't do 6 times. So if you go to push yourself to do 6 times, then you're going to fail. And failing sucks, but comes lessons. So whatever you do, always ask the question, how's it going? Reflect, align, and plan to move forward so you can enjoy the process, the fruits of your labor. Final question, which I love, how much water should I drink before and after exercise? Don't look at before and after, look at this more as a whole. We look at 0.035 times your body weight, so 0.07, because 70% of your body is made up of water. So if you weigh 50 kilos times 0.735 would be about 1.75 liters. And if you're 100 kilos, it's 3.5 liters. Get a 2-liter water bottle. It's easier. Take the lid off. That's how you drink your water in the day. During your workouts, before and after, it's enough to stay hydrated. Like, I sip on water through the workout. It's the way to go. So yes, that brings us to our Q&A. Full body exercise. Remember, the key to the full body exercise, start with compounds first. If you have any injuries or niggles, do a little bit of remedial work beforehand to prime your body, and then just titrate yourself from upper to lower. Big compounds, so squat, shoulder press, deadlift. Shoulder press would be a good one to start with. If you want to work those legs more, check the deadlift out, make it squats. Then going into lunges, to seated rows, then into bodyweight push-ups, maybe some hamstring curls, some abdominal work, then some arms. If you don't want arms and you prefer more glutes, then do some hip extensions back against the bench. The way I would do it is 8 reps, 12, 12, 15, 15. So you could cross over between variations of reps and variations of tempo. So you can have a great workout. Need to make it more enjoyable? Do it with a friend. That brings us to the end of the Q&A and how to do an effective full body workout. So thank you for tuning in and have a cracker of a day. Adios, amigos.